So this video is gonna be different from what we usually do. Gonna be asking some questions about your military past. I guess the first question we'll start is just, how old were you when you joined, and what branch did you join, and what was your reason for joining?
All right, first off, for everybody that's listening, Alex been waiting to do this video for 500 years. I finally caved in to do this. But back to my military experience. I joined the military when I was 19. For people that don't know, yeah, I'm short, but I played college football, and then I proceeded to get a young lady pregnant, and then I wasn't going to put the burden on my mom and my family raising my child, so I decided to forego my scholarship playing football, and I joined the Army. So 19 years old, that was the reason, and that was the reason why I joined also.
So what year was it?
Man, 2003, I want to believe.
2002.
2002. Yeah, 2002.
So this was like a year after 9/11. I mean, that must have still been like a big thing talked about, I guess. I'm assuming when you joined, was that still a big topic in the military, 9/11, the Iraq war and stuff? How was it going into the military after an attack like that?
Well, it's funny. I still remember where I was at on 9/11. I was in political science class at Wayne State University, actually. And then I'm in political science class, and the teacher's talking, and the kid raised his hand and said, "Hey, a plane just ran into Twin Towers." And then the teacher's just like, "Okay, that's unfortunate." And then, he just kept on talking. And then the same student raised his hand and said, "Hey, another plane just went into, I think we're under attack." And then like 3 minutes later, that's when the announcement came over the PA system and we all left. I would left there and proceeded just to go to the football dorms or the football stadium. And then we were sitting there waiting to see if we had practice. But lo and behold, old school football, they didn't care about no terrorist attacks. We practiced the whole week. We couldn't play football that Saturday, and then so that's went on. But when I joined the military itself, it was still very ramped up for 9/11, things like that. It only took me from the time I went to the recruiter's office to the time I went to base training. It only took me like 29 days or something like that. So yeah, that was still fresh on the mind. 9/11 was still fresh on the mind, and then it was rolling into invading Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. So that's about, I met in the middle of that time frame.
Yeah, so I mean, some from, especially I think my generation, we may not understand, did that invasion of Iraq have anything to do with coinciding with that 9/11 attack, or was 9/11 separate from the reasoning of invading Iraq?
I mean, it depends on who you talk to. The powers that be will tell you that it was a carry on from Afghanistan, that the Ba'ath Party and then, Al Qaeda and all those people that was in Iraq was an extension of what the Taliban was in Afghanistan, and Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and we needed to invade Iraq to eliminate him and his powers of the weaponry that he had. So that's what I was told when I was coming through the ranks.
Hey guys, we appreciate you watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, the share button, and subscribe, and stay tuned for what's about to come next on this video. Gotcha. So around that time when you were still in college, I suppose at this time, doing football, I don't know if it's most, but the majority of people that I've heard that served around that time said that that was a big influence point for them to want to join. But I've heard you say it wasn't. So maybe go into that a little bit. Is that just a mindset thing, or what is it that makes one think that it is a point of influence and the other that just doesn't really faze them?
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Me going to the military had nothing to do with any wars that was going on. I mean, they haven't talked about when I was joining, they wasn't talking about the invading Iraq portion of it. But for me, it was strictly, I wanted to be able to take care of my son that was going to be born within the next 8 months or so. So that's really what it was for me. It had nothing else to do with God, country, war, or anything else like that. I was like, this is the place I can get to fastest that will give me a paycheck so I could go send money for Pampers or whatever. It had nothing to do with saving the United States from anything.
Okay. And so when you joined, was your MOS, did you join into a combat role? Was it a different role, or how did that go about?
I know you was waiting for this question. All right, I'm gonna keep this strictly honest. So me, as a young pup, I used to watch the A-Team all the time. Alex, you probably ain't old enough to know what the A-Team was, but with B.A. Baracus and all those guys, Hannibal and all those face. And I was wondering, damn, the MPs are always close, but they never get the A-Team. So I told myself, I was like, I want to be an MP. I want to be able to go after AWOL fugitives. That's what I thought the MPs was, maybe do a little law order on base, do a little gate guard or something like that. I said, oh, easy peasy. I can go do that, take care of my son and move on. But the funny thing is so I go to recruiting station, and then sign up to be an MP, yada, yada, yada. I fast forward and I get to basic training. One of the first things the drill instructors or drill sergeants told me when I got there, he was like, oh, y'all thought y'all going to be on base writing tickets. Y'all just didn't know it was another part to the MP Corps. It was a garrison side, which is, writing the ticket, MPI, CID. Y'all probably call it NCIS because y'all watch too much TV, but different things like that. But then there was a combat side also that only thing you did was you sit in combat and you just worked the small man teams, 3 to 12 man teams and things like that. I was like, what the hell? I was like, I ain't signed up for all this. I just signed up to write tickets and go for the A team. You know what I mean? That's what I was saying when I first got to base training. I ain't let it show on my face or nothing like that. I was just like, all right, yeah, I'm ready. And then, so I proceeded to go to basic training. Then, of course, in basic training, you had to field simulations and things like that. You go on to the field for weeks. I'm like, wait, no shower? Wait, what's this? This the field side? I don't want no part of this. This is not my game. I just want to write tickets, right? And then, so that's how it was. So that's how I was introduced to the other side of the MP Corps. But I thought it was just literally like you're a cop on a military base. That's literally what I thought it was. But I had a rude awakening when I went to base training.
Okay, so when you joined, you became an MP. So you joining the Army was there any part of you that thought that you would end up seeing combat or that you would end up getting deployed overseas?
Wait, I don't think you heard me the first time. I thought I was going to be looking for the A team. I thought I was going to be looking for fugitive. I had no clue about none of this other stuff.
Zero. Okay.
Zero inclination. Wow. Only thing I knew about the military, only thing I knew about the military before that was, my uncle and my grandfather, they was in the military. But that was all. I just knew they was in the military. I had some cousins that they was in the military, but they didn't go to combat or anything like that. So, and then I did like 1 year ROTC when I was like in middle school. But that was it of my military knowledge. It wasn't. Right. I wasn't keeping abreast to the political side and what these different branches did. My goal to go to the military because I thought I was gonna be catching AWOL fugitives because I just thought people just running off military bases left and right, and then we got to chase them down and catch them. That's what I thought I was going to be doing, but I was sadly mistaken.
Man, okay. So at the time you finished basic training, how much time had passed before you got sent on your first deployment to Iraq?
I went to basic training, and then for people that don't know, especially in the MP Corps, it's called OSET training. So you go to basic training, then you start your tech school or whatever they call it in the Army now. And then so you learn your job of being an MP, but you learn 3 months or 4 months of being the ticket writer. And then you learn the other 4 or 5 weeks of being in the field, learning about all the different guns and different weaponry and different things the MPs do in the field. And then after that, I didn't even go to graduation basic training. Literally 2 days before graduation, I had to go to Fort Benning, Georgia to go to airborne school. So I went to go jump out of planes there. So that was around August. And then I stayed home till like October. And then I was in Fort Hood. So that's October 22. I was in October 22 when I got to Fort Hood in Texas. And I was in Iraq March 2003. So what's that, 5 months? Yeah, 5-6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Just explaining to, people that don't know about how the military works, maybe so airborne school, is that something that you selected to do, or did the Army just automatically send you off to that school?
No, I actually selected to do it because I saw my recruiter. She had airborne wings on. I was like, what's that? She was like, airborne, you get to jump out of planes, I said. And then I read about that life because, black people and jumping out of anything, we ain't swimming. We ain't trying to do none of that. But then she's like, oh, you get extra pay for being airborne. Sign me up. I was looking for every dollar there was. So I was like, sign me up. Literally the second plane I ever been on in my life, I was jumping out of it.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So, okay. So by the time you had deployed, how old were you at this time?
I want to say I was 20, 23. I got to do some math on that. 82. Yeah, I was 20. I was 21 at 20 years old.
And so that first deployment, you had seen combat?
Yeah. And but the funny part, it was, so during the initial invasion, and I'm not going to get into too intricate in details, but when we went, we was coming up, how it was supposed to go was we were supposed to come up the south, us in 3rd Marine Division. I believe that's the division for the Marines. And then 4th ID, that was another sister company on Fort Hood. They were supposed to come from the Turkey battle space and come down from Mosul, and we were supposed to meet in Iraq. That was the game plan. But then for some reason, Turkey said that we couldn't use their airspace. So then we had to revert the ship 4th ID back around and come through to Kuwait. So we was all pushing up through Kuwait at the same time. That was probably the longest convoy of my life. convoy is just trucks behind trucks behind trucks.
Mhm.
But for the first 3 months, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't see a bullet. I didn't see anything. We were just driving through. Like some of our sister companies or whatever, they might get into a small tick firefight or whatever, and then they'd come back talking about it, and they always just looked at my platoon like we was crazy, like nothing ever happened. So it was
Yeah.
like, y'all ain't see no action, but no, we didn't see any action. So it was for the first 3 months. The only part that sucked was the ability to take a shower because there wasn't no showers there. So it was fake it till you make it, or just get a bottle of water or get a jug and then have your partner pour some water on you, throw some soap on yourself, and then pour water on you again. So a lot of humility was made up there in those first couple months.
And so, I mean, going into Iraq, I mean, so you went in to the military thinking you're just gonna be running after people trying to escape on base. You didn't think you would ever see anything like this. So you get to Iraq.
Right.
I mean, like, what's going through your mind? Like, not even seeing combat, but at least headed there, you're getting deployed, you're going to end up in Iraq. What's going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, they had our antennas up anyway, because I don't know if you know what MOP 4 gear is, but NBC gear for nuclear, nuclear, biological, chemical weapons. So we was wearing the whole MOP suits with the mask and all that stuff because, the whole narrative that it was weapons of mass destruction. So antennas was up, we was always getting alerts that, hey, Iraq shooting rockets to Kuwait, alarms will go off, we got to jump in ditches. So the antennas was up, but then you get kind of loaded into action when nothing's happening, and you're like, oh, ain't nothing going on. But you're seeing trucks even from Desert Storm still out there that was blown up in Desert Storm. They still out there. You seeing stuff, burnt out buildings and things like that, but you see the after effect of it. You didn't see it when it was going on. I was there. I had the gear on. I really wasn't. The first 3 months, I didn't see nothing. I'm not about to sit here and lie about that. I didn't see nothing the first 2.
So you're there, and so you said you saw after effects from Desert Storm, which that was like 10 years prior, right? So they just left it, like didn't clean up, nothing, just
wasn't no cleanup going on.
So that was just like
just left
history marked on her.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get understand maybe the mentality, and just like for the viewers to see, like, you're 20 years old and you see combat for the first time. I mean, how does it, because I mean, a 20-year-old, I'm 26, and I'm thinking, a 20-year-old, I still look at myself like I still got a lot to learn. I got a lot to experience in life. There's things I'm still maybe immature on, maybe ignorant to. I don't have enough wisdom. So you're 20 years old, this is someone that would be 6 years younger than me, still a kid basically, and you get put into an environment like that. What are the thoughts going through your head, or your impression on that? The people around you, how are they reacting compared to how you're reacting to that kind of environment? What's going on in something like that?
Yeah, no, we're still immature at 20. We just was immature with weapons. That's like it was. But no, I mean, that was the thing. I mean, you see the war movies, you see the World War II movies where, the Marines storming Normandy and all that, the gate drop, and the next thing you know, bullets start flying. That just wasn't when I first invaded. I mean, maybe because we was behind the 3rd Marine Infantry or whatever, they got all the smoke before it got to us. But my first 3 months there, that's not what it was for my platoon. It was just, hey, we just, convoying up to get to a certain locale. And then I remember some of the stops that we made, but it really wasn't nothing really going on. And it didn't take, and then again, at the time when we first was told that we was going over there to Iraq, we was told it was a 6-month deployment. So I'm 3 months in, I'm like, oh, we only got 3 more months and then we out of this month. So that the thing was it was still weighing on us like, wait, we in combat. Other people, like our sister platoons, are seeing the action, but we ain't seeing nothing, So it was like, wait, we about to say we was in Iraq this whole time and nothing happened. But unbeknownst to us, a couple months later, then they told us, your 6 months has been extended to a year. And then they started separating the platoons. So part of the company went to one area, and then because I was in the 4th platoon, and then we got sent to Samara, and then the whole story changed on not seeing action.
Okay. So in Samara, and this is still 2002, right?
This 2003.
Okay. I've heard of Samara from like other veterans talk about it. So how was that? How was Samara?
What's up? Samara started off great, meaning great as in we would hear gunshots in the air or what have you, but it wasn't no attacks against Americans or anything like that. we built up inside of a CMOC police station. But, we'd go out and do missions. We'd patrol the area, make sure everything was good, cool, calm, and collective. We'd train the police force there or what have you. So the first, maybe, I want to say month. So about 3 weeks to a month, it was perfectly fine. And then the lights got turned out. Just one day, the lights got turned out, and then Samara became a whole different place than it was the day before.
Right. So going Samara, around this time, as you get closer to getting into combat engagements, who is it that you guys were actually in combat with, or in conflict with? Was it military? Was it, terrorist organizations? Is it people, was it a uniformed military you're fighting, or is this just like some kind of guerrilla combat?
Yeah, no, it's I always say TV misconstrue a lot of things. Baby, back, during the Civil War, everybody wore uniforms and everybody knew who everybody was. No, Iraq and Afghanistan, they didn't have a certain uniform on to say, hey, we're part of the military. Everybody, it's lottie-dottie everybody. You could be walking past a grandma, you could be walking past a kid, anybody can pull up and start shooting, right? So it wasn't no insignia to say, hey, these are the people you're fighting. It's literally, it could be a group of people, it could be, women in burqas, and next thing you know, somebody just coming out the top, dumping like dead presidents or something like that. So it was a different avenue. But the day the lights got cut off in Samara I'll never forget the day. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just, it was a regular day, the infantry was going out doing their walking patrol, what have you. We doing what we do. And then it was a wedding procession or funeral procession. I can't remember which one. And then, like I said, during celebratory times, they shoot in the air. I believe it was a wedding. They shoot in the air. And then in this particular time, bend the corner, and then the procession is up in front. And then the guys was shooting in the air, but then they seen U.S. military, and then they start shooting at the military. It was return fire. Some people got hit. People went to the hospital, what have you. And then from then on, the whole city turned against us. And then that's really when it happened. I mean, later on that day, somebody threw a grenade into the power supply that we had going to the CMAC. And then, we proceeded to go to the hospital, or another squad in my unit proceeded to go to hospital and check on the people that was injured from, the Iraqi side. And then that was a setup in general, because when they came back, that's when we started getting attacked. And we got attacked every day from that day forward. Every day. Not a day got passed without us getting attacked.
Wow. So how long did the combat last for you in this city?
I think after that, we was there for about another 2 to 3 months. It could be 4. But then we were seeing so much action that they decided to rotate another company to replace us. And then we went to another location. We actually went to Crit. Crit is one of Saddam's palaces. So got to see how Saddam was living. He was living pretty well, pretty well. But he had like a palace, and he had like 50, 60 houses on the palace. He was doing it big. So that's where we went there. And then that's when I got introduced more to, IEDs and things like that. So I went from, rockets, mortars, 7.62 getting shot at, to now in Crit, it was more of IED territory and getting hit with a lot of IEDs.
Okay. So they rotated you out, but you were they still put you back into just another part of Iraq. So you're still...
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the rotation was just to another location. It wasn't, hey, you get to go home and chill. It's just a location.
Right. So they just put you in a different spot. So once they moved you, how much time is left on this deployment? So what is this? You're 6 months in now?
It's around September. So we getting close. Now it's about October, somewhere around there. But it's getting close. We're about 7, 8 months in. So we had about 4 months left after we got to Crit. Could be a little bit longer. So if anybody that was in, one of my units, y'all can, fact check it in the comments on the dates, because I don't remember those. But yeah, we had about 4 or 5 months left in country when we got to Crit.
Okay. So when you get to Crit after leaving Samara and experiencing your first, 3 months of combat, and this is the first time ever you'd been involved in this. Did it change any way that you thought or looked at life from before?
Well, on the outside, no, because I always say, I'm from the D, this every day, we see this every day. But on the inside, I'm like, hey, it's real out here, you know, and that's really what it was. But it wasn't a it wasn't a oh, I'm scared type, you know.
Right,
On the
right.
outside, I was looking like this is breakfast, you know what I mean? Like this is normal for where I come from. But the true reality, it wasn't. But it wasn't. I'm scared. After you know, some people are scared. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say, oh, everybody was hardened like that. There was some people that was scared, and all truthfully, all right, they had a right to be scared. It's life and death. I mean, at that time, you know, only thing it is me. You know, I know I had the kid or whatever, but I haven't met him before that time. So only thing I know is me. So it was just like, all right, only thing you gotta do is worry about yourself. Even if something happened to you, you don't have nothing, you know, left behind to even worry about. So, but other people, you know, they had family, they had, you know, moms and everything else that that they were very close to, brothers, sisters, and things like that. I just wasn't one of those people. I was just out there just, you know, surviving. And, you know, the people that was closest to me at that time were the people that was to the right and left of me. So I was like, hey, I'll do whatever for them. So that's literally how I looked at it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But it was real.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I'm trying to, I guess, get to is, you know, like in any experience, in any situation or tough experience that someone has, you know, it's definitely going to change the way you look at things, you know, going forward. I think that's what matures an individual or gives them a sense of like reality to what the world is actually like. I think that's, you know, did you get that kind of sense of, you know, like a different perception on, you know, how life was coming out of that from Samara?
Yeah, no, I didn't get a different perception. My different perception came back when because they made us go on like vacation or whatever. It was like December, and then I came back, and then I remember everything everybody went through. I mean, we'd have been through it. We had people Purple Hearts, we've had people hit everything, and I remember everything I went through. And then I come back to the States, and I give a shout out to Dallas Airport, Baltimore's airport. They show love for military during that time. But I remember coming back in the country, and then I remember those people was there, you know, to celebrate every time soldiers came home. You know, and they had the little, you know, caravan, you know, you walking through, everybody hugging you or whatever, making sure you're taken care of. And then at that moment, I was like, oh, everybody loves soldiers. But then after I left those airports and then I went to the real world, I realized nobody else gave a damn about what was going on. That's when I really went cold on it and most of those people was probably, you know, veteran spouses or veterans themselves, so they know what we is going through. But the rest of the world, you know, 9/11, that was like, 2 years ago now. And then, you know, everybody that went back to their normal life for the most part. I'm not speaking for all of America, but this is what I seen where I was going, you know. So I would go back to Detroit and everybody looking at you like, well, so what? You know, they didn't care. So then I just became more hardened and more hateful towards everybody from where I came from. So that's really what happened. And I looked and I realized, oh, like, I didn't do more in a day than they probably did their whole lives. They looking at me like I'm still the same piece of shit that was here before I left. So that's really what happened.
Right. So you had to create, how long was it before you got to go back home on that vacation that you're talking about?
Oh, it was December. So I don't know, 10 months in.
Okay.
And then it's crazy. I got sick when I was on vacation. So I had tonsillitis. My whole tonsil swelled up. I was in hospitals in Kuwait and all that other stuff. That was a whole nother story, but we ain't got to go through that. But yeah, that was madness right there. Madness. But when I did go home, I did for the first time meet the little bambino, the little big head kid that I fathered. So that was the point of it.
That's good. Yeah. So okay. So I mean, on that first deployment, was Samara the only time you had been in combat, or did you see combat in Tikrit or other locations of the country?
Well, in Tikrit, it was just more just getting hit by IEDs and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, if you consider getting blown up as combat, and yeah, I kept seeing it until it's time to go home.
Yeah, I suppose so. Okay. Yeah. So just trying to show, you know, you went through a lot of action on that first one. Okay. Wow. So you come home, and how does it work? So you get home on vacation. Is that like does that mark the end of that deployment, or is that just a vacation and then they're like, oh, you got to go back now?
When I came home for that quote unquote R&R, that's what they called it, rest and relaxation. I was just here for 2 weeks, and then I had to go back and then finish the next 2 months or 3 months that I had left in country to finish the tour. Then after that, the whole unit came back as a whole back to Fort Hood, Texas.
Okay. So you get back to Fort Hood. So now you're in what, 2004? Is this?
Yeah, we pushing 2004.
Yeah. So, and how many tours in Iraq did you do? You did 3? Okay, 3. So you get back to Fort Hood. Is this the time where you're trying to figure out your finances and you're
Heck
listening to
no.
Dave Ramsey? No?
Heck no. Wow.
Okay, which deployment was that? Was that the third one, or when was that?
It was actually my third time. The first time I went, I came home, no money. Second time I went, I thought I had a girlfriend, but I really didn't. Still came home with little or nothing. But it was just, I love going just because of the action, the scene, the simplicity of life. But when it came to actually getting my finance together, it was a third deployment where I volunteered to go because I was so broke I couldn't afford to pay attention. That's just the true reality of it. And I was bad. I mean, I was already out the active duty military. I was at home getting fat, drinking every day. And I know some people in the military are like, well, what's the difference between that and the military? But I was actually out of the military. I knew it was a National Guard unit that was about to deploy. And I just knew because I got out in 2007 during a great financial crisis. I didn't know that's what we was in at the time. But I couldn't find a job. I was like 18 months out of the military. I couldn't find a job to save my life. I mean, I couldn't even be a bagger at Walmart. It was bad, but I was still racking up the debt. I still had the truck that I just bought 6 months prior to getting out. Then I thought I was, being financially responsible, building a house that was too big that I couldn't afford. But during that time, they'll give anybody a loan for anything. But then, of course, not having a job, I'm paying for everything on credit cards. So I knew all the credit transfers, credit card transfers, all the schemes to try to not make a payment. So I was doing all those. But then next thing you know, I look up, I got like 25, 30 maxed out credit cards, still don't have any income to pay for it. I mean, I can get into the thinking I was going to be a poker pro and all that. I was losing money on that aspect also, but that's really what it was. I was just running up debt with no income to save me at all.
Come on now, help a brother out. Hit this like and subscribe button. You know how the YouTube algorithm works. Let's get this video out there to a lot of people. I hope you enjoy the content and get ready for what's coming next.
Okay. So you're in that second deployment. You're still haven't even gotten to the, thought about getting your finances straight or nothing. So that second deployment, was it the same length? Was this another year in Iraq? Okay.
Yeah, no, it was another year in Iraq. But I mean, I had thoughts of getting my finance together. I just didn't know how the hell to do it. That's really what it was. And then we could fast forward. We could fast forward to before the third deployment. How it all materialized was, I thought I was going to be a poker pro. I thought I was Phil Ivey's grandson or something. And so, when I was in the military, I was playing poker a lot. And so I thought, I'm going to get out the military. I'm just going to play poker and I'm going to make money that way. And I'm going to take care of my family that way. And at this time, I'm already married. And it wasn't going the way that I thought. I'm in San Antonio. I'm getting my head cracked wide open. Every dollar I put on the table, I was losing. But I used to go back to Fort Hood where I started playing to try to re-up the money to get some more money to go back to San Antonio to lose it again. I went on this circuit for about 6 months of losing most of my money at San Antonio, then going to Killeen, getting more, and then going back to San Antonio. But then this day, it was the day of the Fort Hood shooting. I was already driving down there when it was transpiring. Didn't know it was transpiring, but that's when I went down there. And I went there with my last $300. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Killeen. I'm gonna make some money so I can come back, put some gas in the car, maybe pay a light bill and go back and try to make some more money in San Antonio. But this is my last $300. Credit cards maxed out. I'm spent. And then so I get to Killeen and then I lose. So now I still remember it. I had like $6.25 in my pocket because I went to stop to get something to drink before. So I gave him a 20, and then I had like the change left. So instead of paying $300, I only played $290, and then I still had the change so I only had like $6 or something in my pocket. But I ended up losing. So I ended up losing, and then I had no other answers. I had no other way to pick up money to do anything with. And that was probably the lowest point of life, but that also was the best point of my life also.
Okay. So on that second deployment, was this deployment worse, the same than that first one? Was it more lenient? Did you get to catch any AWOL guys? No. How was it?
No, the second deployment, it was good. I was with the new platoon. I mean, I still got to see, my fourth platoon guys. I was with the new platoon. It was good. I got to meet some pretty cool guys. Pretty cool guys I'm still in contact with today. And I mean, it started off slow. It started off real slow, but then it sped up. The day it sped up was the day I wish I could make up these stories, but the day it sped up, one day I'm just laying in my bed, watching TV on my little laptop. And then something was literally something with my roommate drum That's still my man to this day. Drum, he was in the room also. He was on the other side of the room, and I'm just watching TV. I got my headphones in, watching TV, and then something was just like, look up. I look up at the ceiling, like I'm laying in the bed like this. I look up at the ceiling, and the only thing you hear is boom, like that. I'm like, and then I'm like, only thing I could do is just yell, like, I ain't know what to do. I ain't know if I was dead. I ain't know what the hell to do. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. This is like, yeah. I remember this. Only reason why I remember this because Mario, that's my dude too. Yeah, I was like, man, all thing we do, I heard you screaming. I heard when somebody come to the room and cut on the light, one round landed in the bed with me, but it just blew that way. It only partially blew that way. And it missed. Yeah, that was so that's what I was like, okay. I guess we still in this thing. But it was crazy. Like it's supposed to been like when indirect fires coming onto the base, it's supposed to be a siren supposed to come to let people know that it's coming and everybody go run to the bunker. But literally, it comes through, hit the bed, hit the side of the wall. I had like clothes and stuff at the end of my bed, shred all the clothes. They cut on the light. I get dressed. I'm walking to the hospital. Like 20 minutes later, then the siren goes off and say, oh, we taking direct fire. Walking to the hospital, like, hey, y'all don't have to go nowhere because, everybody putting on all their gear to go to the... I was like, oh, y'all coming for me. I was like, this thing already hit. This thing hit 20 minutes ago. Yeah, so, but then, like I said, I met some cool ass people, man. I mean, some of the best leadership that I've ever seen ever. One guy, I always give him a shout out everywhere I go. I mean, I had a lot of people to shout out on the first tour also, but on the second tour, one guy I had to shout out was Starsky Smith. He was, I thought he was a madman. I'm gonna be honest with you. And this ain't new news to him because I told him the same thing. When I wasn't in his platoon, I thought he was the craziest son of a bitch there ever was that walked the earth. I mean, I heard all kind of wild stories about him. And then he became my squad leader. And then he put rhyme to all the reasons why he was who he was. But everybody I talked to that ever worked up under him, they loved him. They treated him like gold. But everybody outside of who worked with him, they always talk about, oh man, this dude's crazy. But then when I came up under his leadership, I understood I understood why people loved him. I mean, he was a true emote of what a leader was. I mean, when it comes to combat tactics, I put him up against anybody out there in the conventional. I mean, I don't know a lot of guys in the soft and all that. They probably got a leg up on them, but in the conventional army, I'll put him up against anybody. So that was a good part about the second deployment was meet some great people and just seeing a different style of leadership. Tough, fair, but I appreciate it and I still use a lot of his tactics to this day.
And so you mentioned the simplicity of life being deployed. And I know you've told me about it before, but just explain, what makes that kind of life so simple?
Being back in the States or being back home is complicated. I mean, you got to worry about baby mama drama. You got to worry about utilities. You got to worry about bills. You got to worry about paying this, paying that. You got to worry about all this other stuff that in reality don't matter. So for me, it's the reason why combat zones and things like that is so simplistic is because you already know what the game plan is. You're going to wake up, you're going to work out, you're going to eat, you're going to go on missions, you're going to rest, repeat, and just do it over and over and over again. Workout is a little optional, especially deployed. But me, that was my routine. Wake up, work out, or I would wake up, go on mission, come back, eat, work out, watch movies with the fellas or whatever, talk crap or whatever. But I just get in that cycle of that's the only thing that matters. You ain't sitting there worried about what's going on home. Some guys is, some people worried about light bills and all that other stuff. I didn't have to worry about none of that. I didn't have to worry about what my girlfriend was doing and any of that stuff. I ain't had none of that time. It was just so simple. And then you come back to the States, you got to worry about it. Jaywalking, you got to worry about it. You got the seatbelt on. I ain't got time for all that shit.
Yeah, makes sense. So, okay, so you get through this one, you go on to your third one, and this is where you're finally trying to improve your finances. So, you've already listened to Dave Ramsey, you got some debt you're trying to pay off, and if I remember correctly, you were like a E5 at the time, was it? You're a little bit higher rank and you're making more money. So you get into Iraq and you're actually making a pay grade that you can actually start paying off his debt with. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. I was E5, E6. Yeah, one of those. But so I'm over there and I wasn't supposed to be the squad leader, but I'm not going to get into all that. That's a whole nother thing. But I ended up being the squad leader over there in Iraq. And then, like I said, that's why I said Starsky Smith showed me a lot. He showed me what a leader was. So I was ill prepared. Because like I said, I was just going over there. I thought I was going to veg out, maybe put me behind a desk or something, and I was going to be chilling. But what really happened, what manifested was most of the people in the unit never seen combat, never been in the combat zone. So I went from thinking I was just going to have, fun in the sun for a year and, pay off the debt. I was having to do work. But it was because of the leadership of Starsky Smith that he probably gonna be mad because I'm saying his first name. But anyway, but I used a lot of those tactics that he showed me when I was his soldier, and I used that to get those soldiers home. I mean, nobody died, nobody was injured. So that was a successful tour for me because that was the only thing I cared about, because Lord knows I didn't want to have that conversation with anybody about that. And I'm not gonna go back to the first and second tour, but yeah, we lost people in the first and second tour, but I don't want to talk about that anyway. But the third tour was pretty cool. I mean, besides I was in Missoula, besides the base getting bombed a couple times, pretty cool tour. But like I said, it gave me the ability to 100% focus on every paycheck I got. I was just putting it towards paying off debt, paying off credit cards. Then after I finished paying off the credit cards, I started stabbing at paying off that truck that I bought 6 months before I got out of active duty.
Right. So on this third deployment, so the situation in the country is still, still very extreme, still a lot of combat, still intense, I guess, compared to the other ones, or is it starting to die down at all?
Well, I was at different locations each time. I mean, the first tour I was, I drove up through Kuwait into Iraq, so I seen all the southern and middle part of Iraq. The second tour I was in Baghdad, so I was like in the middle of Iraq, but I was in the capital. That's when the EFPs and all that craziness came out. Then the EFPs, as you know, is the ones that will go through armored vehicles. And then the last tour I was in Mosul, I was in the northern part of Iraq. It wasn't as bad. I mean, like I said, we got the car bombed at the base, a couple mortar attacks here and there. It wasn't a crazy as the first or the second tour. But I don't know what was going on in the rest of the country, but I'm just saying where I was at.
Okay, so you get home, or let's just fast forward, you get through this tour, you're done with Iraq because you did 3 tours now. So is it at this point, and what year, this is like what, 2008, 9?
2009.
Okay, and so you had actually gotten out and then re-enlisted back to go on that third tour. So how many years more did you have to stay, or what at what point did you end up leaving the army?
After this tour, that was it for me. That was it. I knew I couldn't stomach doing that again. And again, I met some great people. on that tour, but I couldn't, just knowing the caliber of people. I mean, it's different from deploying active duty than deploying with National Guard or reservists. I mean, active duty have a certain standard, and then National Guard and reservists have another standard. I mean, I'm not saying I'm better than the National Guard or reservists, but the deployment on the third tour was the right location for the unit I was with. I think that unit was in Samarra or in Baghdad. My previous tours, I think that the casualty rate would have been way higher than it was. And if it was I was a leader or somebody else, it's just the mentality between the branches just different. I mean, it's just different. I'm not trying to bash the National Guard or reserves. I'm just saying the level of discipline, the level of training, because if you remember, people that's National Guard or reservists, their everyday job is not Army. It's not doing this job. It's, postal workers, some cops, some, they work in the hospital, some work, Radio Shack. Some people work at Walmart, and then they just, I'm not gonna say play this, but they just do it on the weekend. So their level of training of doing something every day, day in, day out, is not the same as somebody, that's in active duty Army, where this is all they do. This is all they know. So, but I knew after that tour, I wasn't gonna take that gamble again.
Okay. And so you get out, but is this immediately after, what's the process to get out after getting out of that third deployment?
No, the process was easy. After the third deployment, I think I went to like 2 or 3 more drills, and then my ETS date was up, and then I just was, put up the deuces. I got the DD-214 for the third deployment, and then I was out in the wind trying to fight the world again, trying to find a job.
Okay, so you get out of the army, and not to tell a story for you, but from my understanding, from what I've heard, you had heard about contracting, right? Or how did that go? Was it someone mentioned contracting to you? Did you just see like some kind of ad for it, or how did you get to contracting?
Well, actually, I knew not a damn thing about it. I had no clue that it existed.
Okay.
And the reality of it was, I was just back home. Be bopping up and down the street looking for a job. I'm still in the same situation that I was when I got out of active duty. I still couldn't find a job. So yeah, I was able to pay off the debt of the cars and the credit cards, but I was still in the cash flow problem. I still couldn't pay bills going forward, but I didn't have to worry about the mountain of debt on that aspect of it. I still had the house that I had to worry about, but I'm still out here trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, but I'm just not getting in debt doing it. But then I finally got a job at working as a temp at forgot the name of the temp company, but we was working in the for Toyota in the factory at Toyota. I think I was making like $16 to $18 an hour. I can't remember at the time. And then I was just doing that. I mean, it was better than nothing. The hours sucked because it was like you had to do 8 hours and then it was mandatory overtime. I worked in the paint department, so it was humid as hell, like 120 degrees humid. So you always left with your butt chapped and everything because it was just so much humidity.
Jeez.
And then we was on rotating shifts, so you did like 2 weeks days, 2 weeks nights, so it sucked. But because of the mandatory overtime, you could never plan anything because you never knew when you was gonna get off work. But hell, I was just happy to have a job. The whole contracting, I've heard like lures of, it's contractors out there that's getting paid a lot of money to do the same thing that you was doing in the military. I heard about it, but I didn't know nobody that was in that game, so I never even considered it. And then one day, the old ops sergeant from the National Guard unit called me. I know his last name, but I don't want to put nobody out there that don't want to be put out there. He called me out the blue, and I was already out. I've been out for a couple months now, and he said, "Hey Kirby, this mutual person that we knew, it was asked, did they have anybody that could do this job? And the only name she can come up with was yours. And now I understand that she has it's a whole litany of people she could select from. And I'm just saying this as, just a caveat. This one was said, and she said the only person that she knew was you. But she had a litany of people to choose from, but she just chose me. And then I said, yeah, I'll do the job. Hell, I didn't even know what the job was. Let's say, yeah, I was like, it sounded like money I wanted. I didn't know it was contracting. I was damn sure was tired of going in the paint department, looking at damn paint all day and spraying paint over shit all day. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then so he put me in contact with who I need to contact. The mutual person that we knew ran their interference and put us, we contacted together. And then next thing you know, I filled out whatever I need to fill out. And then I left it like that. I didn't hear back I take that back. That's not what happened. Cause I didn't fill out nothing. I just say, yeah, I'll do it. And then a month later, I'm just sitting, I'm at the factory cause I can't do nothing else cause the factory always running. And then I feel my pocket vibrating, but of course you on assembly line, you can't answer the phone, but my break was coming up. And then I never forget the phone call. I listened to the voicemail and Beverly, I won't say her last name. Beverly, she reached out to me and said, hey, we looked at what you did, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We want to offer you this position to do this. I called her right back on break. I said, yeah, I'm all for it. And then that's when she told me the information to fill out. Then I filled it out. And then this was in August of 2010. By the time I filled out the information, I was on a plane heading out to training September 2010. That's how I went.
Okay, so you're coming up on going into contracting, and you got that job at Toyota. So you got out of consumer debt, but where are you exactly financially? Do you have a big savings? Is it just you're just out of consumer debt and you're still trying to, you're still paycheck to paycheck? What is the financial situation look like?
All right, so the financial situation, when I was deployed the third time, I started looking at different hacks on how to save on utilities and all this other stuff. So I come home, half the house don't have light bulbs, thermostat on the house locked at, now we hot as Texas, but the thermostat locked on like 77 degrees. If you still was hot at 77 degrees, you got to just walk around with your clothes off because that's the only reprieve you was getting. But we wasn't lowering it down because we didn't want to burn electricity. We was eating I ain't gonna say we was eating the bare minimum like on food stamps, but we wasn't at the high end of the store. I'll tell you that. We was on the low end of the store. But when I started contracting, it was very unique. Like I said, I started working at Toyota, but I still had this house that I was paying $1,400 a month for. Great financial crisis. So, house prices are plummeting around the country. But in Texas, the economy is very isolated to Texas. So prices weren't going up no more, but they wasn't going down. I was able to get out of that house for the same amount that I paid for it. I probably lost $1,000 here or there, but I didn't have to come out of new more money to pay this guy. But I sold it to him via subject to, and then we left that. He took over the payment. And then so I went from a $1,400, 3,000 square foot home to a $600, $600 a month, 600 square foot apartment. So I was only paying $600 a month, going from $1,400 a month. So that was roughly about an $800 a month savings. Of course, then utilities got cheaper and all that went with it. But the $800 a month that I was saving, I was I was just investing it. So now I'm working at Toyota. And so because of the payment and the amount of the bills got down low enough, then my wife's paycheck was able just to handle the bills. And then all the money that I made at Toyota, I just invested that also. So when the contracting gig came up, and just one funny thing about the contracting gig. So now I told you I've been out of the military for some time now, but I'm having a civilian job that had decent pay. This was the one that had decent pay. And then when I got the contracting gig, it wasn't, hey, you have the job. It's, hey, you can try out for the job for the contracting gig. So now I'm fairly new at Toyota. So I couldn't say, hey guys, can y'all give me 21 days vacation so I can go try to get this other job? It was literally, hey, I got to quit this job and then go try out to see if I have what it takes to take this job with the State Department. And I was just sitting there stewing, just back and forth, like, should I do it? Should I do it? Because of course I'm sitting there looking and thinking about, you'd been out the military for a minute, especially to combine from active duty and then, that time off. And it's the first job that's paying you decent money. And I know some people going to be on here like social media talking about, $16, $18 an hour is decent money. But when you came from nothing, $16, $18 is very well decent money, in my view. And then so I contemplated it for about a day, and then I just said, go for it. I just said, go for it. And then so I went to the supervisor at Toyota and I said, hey, I'm just going to let you know I'll be here for 2 weeks because I'm going to try to take this. Well, I didn't say try to take it. I said, I'm taking this job. They didn't know that, hey, it was just a tryout. But I knew I couldn't ask them for the time off. And then I end up leaving actually on my birthday, which ain't a big deal to me. But I know some people are like, oh, you packed up and left on your birthday? Yeah, it was my birthday. I got on the plane and I took off, headed to Virginia. And that's when the training started. It was very interesting. But yeah, that's when it started.
So for those that may not know, I guess contracting is considered being a mercenary. I guess the term mercenary is not like PG anymore. So in contracting, so you mentioned you go to training. What is that training like compared to, your usual military training?
Well, it depends. I mean, they call it contracting because you can do a plethora of things in quote unquote contracting. I mean, it's some contractors just plumbers, lawyers. So what they're saying is you're not an employee of said organization or said government. You're a contractor to this department, but you're not an employee. So whatever the hell you do or what happened to you is not our damn responsibility. That's really what it says. Right. So I mean, but you can be plumber, carpenter, whatever, but it's just a contractor in that phase. For me, what I was doing, I was there to, I can say it now, I was there just to embed with foreign police forces, build foreign police forces, train them to, fight the Taliban, to investigate crimes for the Taliban and, different things like that. But embed mean in bed, like you in there with them. So, that's what it was. Training was just, for me, it was a normal training, shoot, move, communicate, know how to shoot, know how to move, know how to communicate. The nuance of this was a little different because in the military, I always had a 3-man team or 12-man squad. And this, it was every man for themselves. You had to be able to do this stuff by yourself. And then you might have a partner one or two times, but you might not. And that's what it was. So of course it was every individual was among themselves. They might have team practices, but everybody was evaluated on their own merit. I believe when I got there to the training, I believe it was maybe 60, 70 people that started the training. But when it was time to go, I believe it was only 11 of us that actually made it all the way through to leave when it was time to SP up out of Virginia.
So in contracting, how does it work? Because so you went to Afghanistan, correct? And so in the military, you'd never been to Afghanistan. So this was your first time going to Afghanistan. And so with contracting, would you call it a deployment? Are you going there for a year? How is it working? How long are the contracts, if you're able to go into that detail?
Well, the contracts are a year. But then you can just extend long as you want to, really. Unless you do something crazy, stupid, then of course your contract will be canceled. But besides that, that's what it is. It's a year at a time type deal.
Okay. So you go to Afghanistan, and is it because you mentioned the different types of contracts that there are, plumbers and such. And so once you get there, is it just paperwork? Is it you're, deployed into some kind of combat zone? Like what's the kind of, what are you doing?
No, man,
You
it's
Agent 47.
it's totally different from the military. Like when you go with the military, you're going with a group of people and you're going to a military base and you're landing on a military base and then you go through the song and dance of what the military do. Me, I went over there as a civilian. I flew into Dubai. I left Dubai and I flew civilian airplanes into civilian airports. I had to go through civilian customs and I had to travel through on civilian cars through the out of the international airport and things, and then went to my destination. And then I was just there like a civilian. And then I got to HQ, and then the rest of the ball started rolling on other stuff.
Yeah, so what is that like HQ like, is it militarized? Is it just like some kind of like office? You what does that look like?
You're having so much fun with this. So all right, in the military, it'll look just like you see on TV. You see the tan buildings and stuff like that. But in this world, it was just a hotel. You might have some local TCNs or some people from other countries. They sitting there securing the location, but that's all it is. It's just like a hotel. Yeah, the whole situation was different for me. I'm used to going through the military jargon and going through the BS and going through all the stuff that you got to do with the military. But this was just being a civilian. I never went to a combat zone on a civilian aircraft with just civilians. Like people there with they Afghani hats on, all rolled up, and then burkas next to me, and I'm just sitting there, just like, hey, I didn't know what the hell to do, And then you get off the plane. I'm used to in the military, you landed in a secure base. I'm just landing out there with civilians, fighting traffic just like the next man. It was different. It was different, and then the whole thing in general was a different aspect. It was a different aspect of what I seen in the military. And I thought it was going to be, I didn't think it was going to be a team aspect. I knew it was an individual thing. Even when I got to HQ and then I got my weapons, I requalified with the weapons. And then it was literally like, hey, we're going to give you a 10-digit grid. Find your way to get there. And if you can reach back out to us, let us know where you're at. That's what it was. And the military is nothing like that. Hey, here's your team. This is the grid. This is, you got BFT trackers. You got everything there, knowing where you're at. They just said, find your way there. So I'm robbing PayPal to get to this 10-digit grid, doing favors to get to, said location that I need to be at. So it was very different from what it was like in the military.
Sounds like it puts you in a very complicated spot to become, more independent, not depend on, some kind of, like a government power to take care of everything and hand everything out to you. Sounds like you're kind of like on your own.
Yeah, it's night and day from the government, how the government, like military. I'm not gonna say the government, how the military operate. Yeah, I mean, me coming from a military background, it felt refreshing to be treated like an adult.
Okay.
But you miss the comfort of saying, hey, I know I got 12 other guys with me with guns that's going to help protect me if something go down, So now you're on your P's and Q's way more than what you'd normally be. It's good. It's good that happened. But again, like you said, it was being independent, knowing that you got to take care of yourself. There's no excuses. You can't blame nobody else. You can't say, hey, somebody miswatched. That's why you up there at the pearly gates talking to Peter, wondering why you there. It's if you at the pearly gates talking to Peter, it's because you failed and fell asleep on watch for yourself. So, I mean, I like the fact of, being I ain't gonna say a one-man wrecking crew, but being independent and all the onus is on you instead of having a scapegoat to blame for if something didn't go correctly.
Okay. And so, I mean, the experiences that you had in contracting, were they more intense than what you had experienced in Iraq? Was it the same level of intensity? What is the difference? Or is it kind of just the same environment, same job, same...
Well, something that was similar when I finally found that 10-digit grid or a location that they assigned me to, still didn't have no damn showers, man. I went like 3-4 months with no shower. I'm like, come on, man.
Oh, man.
Huh? Well, no. I'm talking about after the hotel. After you leave the hotel, then you just out there in the wind. No showers again. I'm like, come on, man. What's going on? So yeah, they always get stuck with the no shower. So that was kind of the same from first deployment. But besides that, yeah, I mean the first couple months I was out there. I say first month or so I was out there. It really wasn't nothing going on. Really, nobody knew I was in the area. But then I did have a partner early on. They didn't know we was in the area, but then it started getting well known very soon that we was in the area, and things started to pick up. And what happened, you know what I mean? But as far as intensity wise, it reminded me of being in Samara. That's what it reminded me of. It was intense. I mean, of course, the attacks wasn't as frequent as it was in Samara when I was in the army, but the attacks was the attacks, and then when they came, they came. It wasn't. And the real difference from Afghan and Iraqis is Afghanis to do it too, but Afghanis will stay there and fight more than Iraqis. You know, Iraqis will shoot, you know, pop shot and then run a lot. But Afghan did have those EFPs and those IEDs that just took you out. It was IEDs in Afghanistan also, you know, landmines and all that stuff. You know, you could be in a battle for a minute in Afghanistan. Long battle, long while. So that was the biggest difference, but it was intense every time.
Hey guys, we appreciate you watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, the share button, and subscribe, and stay tuned for what's about to come next on this video. So, I mean, so you're out there. So, I mean, it sounds like you really got to fend for yourself. You know, no showers. Did they give you a toothbrush, man? You got to bring your own toothbrush? Like,
come on, man. If you ain't no shower, everything else don't matter. But no, I brought my own toothbrush, but it wasn't that toothpaste wasn't lasting that long, player. You know, I was out there thugging it. But the funny part was I didn't have this beard. I didn't have it for a long time. I mean, I never had a beard before I went there. I had like a goatee or something like that. But the reason why I started growing the beard was because I noticed when I went out in the villages or went out and talked to, you know, people, they wouldn't talk to me. And then a guy told me, and they said, "Oh, you don't have a beard." They look at you like a kid. So I started growing a beard. By the time I left there, my beard was like hanging down. And here I was the Black Santa Claus. But but I mean, but true to form, when I started growing a beard and everybody started talking to me, I ain't talk back, but everybody started talking to me. Then it was
really? Well, that's interesting, like the cultures and stuff. So from what I understand, you started actually trading or maybe you started investing beforehand, but you were actually doing active trades and such while in Afghanistan. Isn't that correct?
Once I got internet, it was back on. I mean, it was not active trades. It wasn't active trades early on. What it was I would get, you know, internet access for maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then I would just be checking on my positions, and then, you know, all my paychecks was going just to add to positions that I already had. I mean, I knew connectivity with the internet and stuff like that was limited, very limited. So I couldn't actually do trades, but I'll still be building out positions out there. But I mean, I made that part of my regimen. I mean, I wake up, work out, get an MRE or two, go on a mission or two, and then I come and check the computer. Because of course, with the time difference, it was like 5, 6 or something like that. When it was like the market was open in the States, I'll go, you know, just check on my positions. Really, I didn't have, you know, CNBC to watch on TV to see what's going on. You know, I only had like 30 minutes on the computer. So I'm just quickly glancing at CNBC, seeing if somebody said something crazy, and then just really just shoring up positions, building bigger positions than it was. I mean, you still at the time had the bank still sitting there off sides a lot. And that's when I started. I mean, close to that time, that's when I started building a position in Bank of America, and I just kept building the position there. But I had the Apples of the world. I did miss the Netflix when it came down to $8 because I just didn't understand what Netflix was. I mean, at the time, before Netflix came out in the States where, you know, they delivering the DVDs to your house, we already started to clamp down on spending money and stuff. So we never got to enjoy the Netflix bringing the DVDs to the house. And then only news I heard through the grapevine was, "Hey man, Netflix stopped doing the DVDs." And then, so I heard the stock tank, but I didn't really know about streaming or anything else like that. So I missed that one. But yeah, Netflix was down like 8-11 or some crap like that. I missed that totally. I missed the ball on that one. Also missed the ball on I missed the ball on Meta also. When Meta came out, it came out like at 46 or 48. And then I said, man, I'm gonna buy this when it get below 20. It got down to $18, but I forgot about it. I missed that one. It was called Facebook at the time, so I missed that one. But the thing was, I wasn't connected to the world to even know what was going on. The one, like, nobody can call me. The cell phone and SIM card that I had wouldn't even work in the locations. But yeah, but I was still building out positions. It was part of my regimen every day to keep focused on my financial goals.
Okay. And so, yeah, so your wife is, you know, with her income, she's still paying all the bills, and everything you're making, you're just investing all that, right?
Well, it was unique at the time. Well, you're right. What you just said, I was investing every dollar, but it just so coincidentally at the same time, my wife went on special assignment for the Air Force, and she was TDY. So every 2 weeks, she was going to a different military base around the world. She did that for 3 years. And so really all the money that we had, we was investing. So it really wasn't no money that was being spent on personal stuff. Besides, you know, what my wife was getting in the States, but me, I ain't have nowhere to spend money at anyway. It wasn't like it was a Walmart or something over there where I was at. So, you know, every dollar I had, it went direct deposit, and I just go online and be invest. So everything was getting invested.
So what was your pay at the time? What were you making?
Different time, different things. Contract change. I say about just me. I'm not including my wife. So about 12 to 14,000 a month.
Okay, and so
And
you
they weren't
did
taking
this.
taxes out. They weren't taking taxes out. So it's 12 to 14,000 a month. That's what it was.
They weren't taking taxes out. Oh, okay. So you did this for how many years? 3? Was it just a straight 3 years out there?
Yes, straight 3
You
years.
didn't come back home.
Oh yeah, I came back from home after a year. I went to Dubai, and then I came and we celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary. Came back once or twice more, but I was focused on back over there. That kind of warfare or welfare. That's the kind of stuff I like. So yeah, I came back about maybe 3 times total to the States or something like that.
So it's kind of interesting because it's like you initially joined the military, not even thinking you'd ever even see war, not even crossed your mind. You came from Detroit, you grew up rough, but the idea of going into combat was just like not even a thought for you. And then, because you hear so many people that I think you said there's like 5% that do it for like they love their country, they want to go out there see action or whatever. That's what I hear people talk about that, they wanted to go see action. They end up never seeing anything, but you didn't even think about seeing none of that. And then you ended up, kind of adapting to it and liking that lifestyle. Is it the simplicity of that lifestyle? Is it the adrenaline? What pulls someone into wanting to just keep doing that same thing?
Well, it's the adrenaline. For me, it was more, especially when I got to the contracting side. I mean, I did different situations with people that was in the military and stuff like that. And then you always see these guys that, fresh off the plane and, they're 19, 20 years old, how the military work, you get all your bells and whistles and badges and all that. So when they get there, the only thing they want to talk about, oh man, I want to get in a firefight so I can get my CIB, my CAB and all that other stuff. And I always told them, I was like, dude, this is not what you want. I was like, I'll go buy you one if you just need one, but this is not what you want. And the thing was, and this was the thing I just learned early on, was people come to the military for different reasons. Some people come for reasons like me, just want to take care of the kids, or people coming for, just education to pay off debt, just to get a job, stop living in mom's house or whatever. But a lot of people that's coming to the military is not coming there to be in the thick of things. I mean, I think it's only in the Army, it's only 18 MOSs that's combat related, but it's over 200 jobs in the military. And trust me, all those people that's going to those other jobs ain't looking for combat. I just didn't know my non-research and self at the time. I didn't know MPs was a combat MOS. I just didn't know it. And then so that's how it happened. But the other thing that happened over time is you see people there, and some even in leadership positions, and they play the role of that, because they read all the books, they know the military doctrine that they will be people that's good in war. But for the most part that I've seen now, like again, I can spew off good leaders that I had in the military all night, but for the most part, most of those people that's book knowledgeable on the military, they are cowards in combat. And I'm not saying no names or nothing like that. I'm just saying, and I seen that firsthand. And that was one of the reasons why I gravitated to it, because I said a lot of these people that's in these positions won't be there to protect the person to the right or left of them. They just, of course, they know all the Army regulations, they know everything to do to get promoted, they book smart, but when it comes down to it, they are not really about that life. And I'm admitting to you right now, when I started off, I was not about that life. I was about football. I was about, hey, can we get a pickup game of football going on or something like that? But I wasn't about that life. I'm gonna be 1,000 with you. I wasn't about that life. It just became ingrained in me, but it came ingrained more of, hey, I'm looking out for the person to the left and right of me. And then that's why, we always talk about, Kirby, why you always trying to help people on the financial world. It's my affinity for people of, I think somebody else could have a shot. And that's what it was for me in combat too, is, hey, I'm willing to stay. I was going to stay anyway, but I'm more willing to stay if I know I'm helping another soldier get home. Because I know everybody that's there, they there for their own personal reasons, but I know all their ass ain't there to be saying, hey, let's go get in the shootout, player. They ain't for that. And I went for it. I mean, after you've been in a couple, then you see the devastation of what happens in them. you don't want no more to come, but you're more prepared of what happens in those situations than those people that maybe went through some simulations and basic training, or, they think they played a little Call of Duty, so they know what the hell going on. It's all fun and games until somebody shooting back at you. Everybody expert shooter until somebody shooting back at them. So that's the reason why I've got more of affinity for it, was, more to look after my fellow man to the left and right of me than just to be out there saying, oh, I'm just a gun-ho warrior and I just wanted to do it. I'd be sitting here lying.
Okay. So I guess we'll just fast forward, so you do this for 3 years, you're already on your financial journey, financial path, doing things right. By the time you get out, are you a millionaire at this point, or are you still working your way towards that goal? Where are you now financially once you get back?
Hell no, I'm still making bad trades. I'm the dummy that'll buy Apple and sell it because it goes down. I was still making bad trades, but I did make some good ones. But I still was offsides a little bit on the investment side. I think I'm sitting, including my house, I think I'm sitting at, with, of course, like I said, I put all the money in there. Of course, paying Uncle Sam, because everybody think every dollar from overseas is tax-free. That's not the truth. It's a set number every year that's tax-free, and everything over that you have to pay the highest tax bracket. So I still was writing checks to Uncle Sam for $20,000, $30,000 every year. When I got back, including paying off my house, I'm sitting at about 580, 600,000. About 500 in cash, and cash in investments, and then about another 150. I always give conservative numbers on the place I live, in the house about 150. Of course I had cars that were paid off, but I don't count that.
Yeah. Okay. So would you say that, contracting kind of maybe catapulted you into a better financial position to launch yourself to where you started investing in real estate and stuff? Was that a good push to your financial journey?
Not the way people would think of it, because of course people gonna see this video and they're gonna be like, oh, well, he made 140, because they're doing the math for $1,400, $1,000 a month. And yeah, he made this money. So yeah, that's what catapulted him. Really, it wasn't that. Before I got to Iraq, I was close to 100,000 already saved just working at, Toyota. When I eventually got there, still working at Toyota, yes. But the thing that catapulted me was I didn't have the expenses that other people had. Because now, mind you, I'm there contracting. I'm not the only contractor in the damn whole world, in the whole country. I know a lot of other contractors that was there also at the time, and they have no money, or they had no money when they left there, because of course they bought all this stuff. They had all these expenses, they taking care of moms, cousins, brothers, sisters. They thought the money wasn't gonna run out. And if I'm just putting a number on there, and I'm not trying to talk bad about nobody, but if I put a number on there of people that actually made money and it changed their life for longevity wise, that went contracting for, let's say, 3 years, I think 95% of them is in a worse situation today than it was when it was contracting. But the thing that catapulted me was I didn't have the expenses. I didn't, like I said, combat is very simplistic. So, you don't have to worry about lights, gas, phone, water, you got a throwaway cell phone that you put a SIM card in there, pay for minutes like back in the day. But besides that, you don't have all those expenses to worry about. If you in a third world country and you can find a way, and people did it, find a way to blow, $5, $6, $8, $10,000 a month in a third world country, then it's not them. You just don't know how to, you just can't sit there with money. But the lack of expenses, that's really what helped catapult it. Because again, like I said, I know a lot of people who still came back broke.
Right. Okay. And so by the time you had gotten out, you were basically a full-time, basically stock trader, correct?
When I got out, our son was on the way. That's the only reason why I came home, because I had a son on the way. And then, of course, I always talked about personal finance, still to this day. But whenever I talked about personal finance, I'm gonna say my people, because came mostly from my people. My people would always be like, "What degree do you have to be talking about finance?" And I always would say, degree or not, I'm still gonna say the same thing. But of course, they always gave me the side eye, and I'm gonna say my people again. And then so I decided when I came back, I said, you know what? My son's about to be born. I'm gonna tell him to go to college, because that's what everybody told me what to do. But I can't tell him to go to college if I don't have a degree. So I started the day my son was born to get a degree, and that's what I did. I did in finance because it was something I already knew. So that's how I was able to complete a 4-year degree in 18 months. Because I just took double the workload all year round. And I did it for 2 reasons. I knew it wasn't going to give me new information that I haven't learned myself, but I did it so I could tell these people to shut the hell up, and to prove that my financial philosophy on personal finance wasn't going to change even if I had the education. So that's what I did. And my message is still the same today when it comes to personal finance. But now I can say, now I got a degree. Now what the hell your excuse? That's really what.
Okay. And so, I mean, so you come out and, I mean, it sounds like you've tried to transition so many times, going to Iraq, coming back 3 times, now Afghanistan, how is it? It's got to be such a 180. I mean, going from, living in a bubble society to going to a conflict zone and, seeing the reality of how harsh the world can be, and then coming back to that 6 times, how is it transitioning? Is it something you just like accepted, or is it something that you still like sometimes think to yourself, like, how can people be this separated from reality?
The transition, I mean, I always say I'm always transitioning because I still can't understand the whack ass people in this country. The truth of it is, and I'm being straight up, the reason why I moved to Florida when I left Afghanistan, I had a couple options. It was Arizona, it was, I think, California, or it was Florida. The reason why I picked Florida because it was familiar. I never been to Florida a day in my life before I came here and moved here and bought a house here. But it was familiarity with somebody that I've been to combat with. Actually, 2 people I've been to combat with. And then I just called them and asked them where they was at. They said Florida. They told me the general location. And then I was like, oh, that's where I'm going. Because I knew I needed to talk to people who understood. People that I know, not just, some random veteran walking up talking about, yeah, I was in Fallujah, I killed like 500 people. I didn't want to talk to those people. Yeah, I didn't want to talk to those people. I wanted to talk to people that I know, been there, done that. And then, I mean, Alex, now that I have a certain demeanor. I'm just straightforward. If you saying something that's pissing me off, I'm just gonna say you pissing me off. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not making it sweet and try to be all cool and make sure I'm not hurting nobody's feelings. But those people that I went to combat with, they, that's how we act towards each other. So it's pretty cool. So that was the reason why I came to Florida. But the adjusting, besides talking to them 2 people, I probably didn't leave the house for 2 years. And it was just me and my son, me taking care of my son, me going to school and things like that. I was not trying to deal with the population as a whole because I just know they're so ignorant of what's really going on. And they just, they really out here just puppets, just playing along to a game that they don't understand nothing about. And I know people probably say, well, you as a puppet, you work for the government. Yeah, whatever. But that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to get to, I mean, what you've experienced is what 99.99% of people will never experience. As time goes on, does time help you adjust, or is that something you just never really adjust to? And it's just like you've always got that in the back of your head of like, society is oblivious, or is it something that you're just able to switch back to civilian life and just like get back in the grind of how things work?
Let me make this statement. It ain't no time God got on earth for you to prepare for stupid. So I'll never adjust to stupid. But yeah, no, I mean, I can go out there and mingle. I mean, Alex, you seen me. I can go anywhere and spark up a conversation or whatever. Like,
but some of the reconnaissance missions, you're just trying to get info to get money out of people.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, I do what I do. I do what I do. I got to do what I got to do. But what I'm saying is, am I a person that's just sitting out there just partying, hanging out? No. I mean, I know I'm gonna I'll go to places where, I'm comfortable, where I can see everybody, people, hopefully people paying attention. I'm just not out and about just willy nilly and thinking, oh, this is so sweet. Ain't nothing gonna happen. I mean, hell, look at the national championship game, what happened over in Louisiana, stuff, happened in Florida, stuff that happened in Orlando, stuff that happens all over the place. So I'm just not just out and about. Not to say that I'm scared. No, I'm not scared at all. I'm not gonna sit there and I hear something blow up and be curled up in a ball like, oh my God. That's not it. I'm more worried about the people that's not paying attention. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about the people that's not paying attention. And that's the only thing that I can see is people just not paying attention. So I just be like, why am I here? Nobody's paying attention to what's going on. Not thinking that everywhere I go, somebody's gonna get attacked. I just can recognize people not paying attention. But besides that, I'm not sitting here, I ain't sitting here looking through the blinds like, hey, what's going on outside? I'm not that guy at all. But yeah. But a lot of things, a lot of the military and working for the government taught me just to be comfortable with yourself. Walk the earth alone. You don't need to have people around you 24/7. And so I appreciate that because I don't like to be around a lot of people a long time. I'm here for a good time, but not a long time. I tell you that.
So one question I've always been curious of, and we'll wrap it up shortly, is your experience with combat, your experience with being in the military, working for the government, the kind of person or the kind of character that builds, the kind of person that forms you into. Does that help you in becoming so successful at business?
Military, the structure itself, it helps me with what I do in business, the structure itself, because I'm not a micromanager at all. I'm a person that really, hey, do your job, you report to somebody else. I just want to be up there at the top, just, hey, fix the situation. So understanding that style of management, that style of leadership helped me out a lot in business, because that's what I want to do. I'm not going to sit there and talk to the employees and be like, hey, how your kids doing? How your family doing? I really don't care. Just work, just work. If you got a problem, I understand problems, send it up the chain, we'll get that, fixed or whatever. But I'm just not that person. I'm not the huggy Philly kind of person. But what it helped, especially in the investment world, I'm willing to take any risk there is. I mean, if the worst is seeing my comrades pass, the next thing is not going to kill me. So the ability to take risks, I appreciate it, because before I was in the military, I was scared to take any risk. Yeah, I played football, but I ain't know nothing about this CTE and all this other crap that was going on. And I was just,
Yeah.
I was just ignorant of it. So, that's why I did that. But I was scared to take, I was not a risk taker. I'm the guy that, when I was younger, I see some guys on the block, I'll just go around the other way to get home, because I ain't want a possibility of a confrontation. So yeah, it was the ability to take risks, not have fear. You've seen the worst of life, you've seen the worst of people. So they always say that saying, what don't kill you only make you stronger. No, it just didn't kill you. But being stronger is just being able to recover and analyze what you did wrong and come back and do it better. I mean, even with missions, every mission didn't go right. Going back to AAR to see what you did wrong, to study the losses so you could fix it. So those were the avenues that helped me in business, helped me in investing and stuff like that. That's why when I see something, the worst thing that could happen is I could lose some money. I lost close dear friends. The money is not an issue. So that's why I can put a big position on. And then, of course, when it goes up, I look like a hero. But when it goes down, it's like, oh, okay, that's, yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, we'll close it out with this. Looking back now, and I'm sure during those times it was stressful and everything, but looking back now in those times, what was the funniest moment or funniest experience that you had?
Man, everybody know the funny. Well, most people know the funniest experience. I don't want to call them out, but I will. But I remember I'm contracting, and then I started getting a name about myself for somebody who always got into firefights. I was trying to keep it low key, but the people that was in the military, and like I said, the military is about getting badges and all this other stuff. And this guy's gonna kill me when I finish telling this story. Good God! But he set me up. All right, so now it's 2 weeks before this guy's about to go home. He's a soldier. He's in the military. He comes up to me and said, hey, Kirby, I heard about you, and I want to know, can I go out on a mission with you? First thing I say, because he only got 2 weeks to go home, I'm like, hell no. I'm like, no, man, just get home. He's like, man, I ain't got my badge. I want to get my badge. I'm like, dude, it's not even worth it to get in a firefight. It's not what you want. That's what I always tell people. It's not what you want. And so I said, all right, I'll do you one better. I thought no way on earth that anybody in the military, like his higher ups, would give him the okay to leave, to go outside the wire with me when he only has 2 weeks to go home. That's the worst story you could say in the military is, oh yeah, 2 weeks before you go home and something happened to him. So I tell him, I said, ask your higher ups, can you go? And then if they say go, you can ride. I'm thinking they're going to say, hell no. He come back to me like 15 minutes later. They said I can go. I'm looking like, what the hell? Anyway, so I said, I think it was like 2 days later or a day later. I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. So I was taking some local police out.
You were a contractor?
I was a contractor at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
he was in the military. Yeah,
Okay.
I was a contractor at the time. So I took the local police out to do a raid. Yeah, I ain't gonna say his name because I don't know if he's still in, and I don't want him to get in trouble now. But I take some locals out on a raid, and local police out, on a raid. And then I'm just telling them, I'm like, hey, just stay near me. I shouldn't have told them stay near me because I'm retarded. I'll just leave it at that. So they're raiding the houses in the village, but I'm standing on top of a house. That's the worst place you could be. The absolute worst place you could be is on top of a house. But I'm standing on top of the house, and I got my interpreter to the right, and he's got the interceptor intercepting Taliban traffic. And then so my interpreter tells me, hey, the Taliban is getting close. And then we get, I say we got lucky. We get lucky because a Black Hawk that wasn't dealing with our mission flies over. the Taliban do some more talking, and then interpreters say, oh no, they turned around because they saw the black. So now the raid, the search and everything clear up, because I didn't even go into the houses. I was just out there for the soldiers just to, whatever. And then so I tell him, I said, hey man, Taliban was around, but we heard him on the radio, but they not coming because the Black Hawk flew over. So he's upset. And then I tell him, hey, I was like, hey man, we still got to get home. But he's all down in the dumps, and he's just down in the dumps because he knew that was the last mission he was gonna get to go on. So I'm gonna try to speed this up for the viewers here. And then so we get back in the vehicles and we driving. The guy that I was going on the mission for, he's in the vehicle behind me, and the only thing I hear was the truck stop, and then I hear it pink, 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 pink. I know that it's universal to me now. I let down the back. And I get out so now I'm on actions coming from this side, and I'm sitting on this side of the truck, and this truck is in between. And the only reason why I did it, because I've been in these situations with a couple other people that was with us, and I know what they do. We should have just stayed in the trucks and just drove. We had armored trucks, bullets not gonna do nothing. We should just drove. But I knew, only reason why I got out, because I knew some other people, I don't know if they still in the military or not, so I'm not gonna say their names either. I know they will dismount on any contact. So I get out. Lo and behold, I look up. Person who I thought was gonna get out did. And then I see the young soldier behind him. I said, oh God. So the one guy that I knew was gonna jump out, I knew he was just straight attack mode. It wasn't no, hey, sit here and come up with a game plan. So as soon as I saw him peel the corner on his truck, I peeled with him, because I knew nobody else was going to go with him. Again, I've been in situations before where he peels off and leave, and we're the only people there, and there's nobody else's. But I wasn't going, so I knew he was just going to peel off and go. So I take off and go with him. So we go through doing our thing. We hitting, moving. And then I look up, and then the young soldier is right to my left. And then it's like a little hill. And then so I walk around the hill. And then he thought he was like in a Vietnam movie. He looks over and said, I'm sitting here right next to him. I'm like, what? Oh. And then so he proceeds to jump over this little berm. And I walk around the berm, and I'm just sitting there looking at him while he collecting. So I'm like, what you doing? And then so I'm running with the other guy that I know he took off. So I know the young soldier is on my 6, but I wanted to make sure he was like not on my 6 behind me. I always wanted to make sure I could still see the muzzle of his rifle, because of course he never been in this stuff before. Anything could pop off. So I'm keeping him close to me, but shoot, movement, communicate. So it's all over. He got the biggest grin on his face I ever seen in my life. Yeah, I was in it, baby. And then so I let him, I let him get excited. He excited. He high-fiving the whole nine. Then I just say, hey man, come here. He was like, what's up, man? Big smile on his face, rifle still across his chest. I said, let me get this straight. You dismounted that truck, you went over the wall, and you done ran through this whole mug with me and the other guy. He was like, yeah, man. He was like, man, that was intense. And I was like, you want to know the crazy part of all this? He was like, what's that? I was like, you didn't fire your weapon one time. And you could see he went from smiling to, and then he looked down at his hands like his hands was broke. And then he was like, and he just started throwing a tantrum. Watch your hands. But he did all of that and never shot one round. So after he was upset with it, he had to cut him. He was like, hell no. He was like, how the hell did you see all that? I was like, look, I'm not saying this to brag, but I've been in so many of these, it's like slow motion, and I have to see what everybody's doing just to make sure one of y'all don't clip me. So I was like, I seen everything you're doing. I was like, you was my priority, because it wasn't nowhere in hell I was about to let you go out on this mission and something happened to you. Yep, sure enough, he did all that and didn't fire one round. I was like, oh my God. Every time I talk to him, I'm always clowning about it. And now he just laugh about it or whatever, but it's the funniest thing ever. That was absolutely the funniest thing ever.
Oh, man. Well, that was great. Well, I appreciate it, Kirby. It was cool to do this video, and just to show people an insight on what you've been through and where you're at now. I think everyone knows where you're at now, but they don't know what led up to it. So
yeah, they don't know why I'm an asshole.
Yeah, with that said, guys, please share this video, like the video, subscribe, send us more content so we can react to it, and we'll see you guys on the next video.